Okay, good evening and welcome. It's good to see all of you. Give a chance for people to settle in into their seats. Really appreciate your time being here this evening. My name's Adam Swinyard. I'm the superintendent of Spokane Public Schools, and I'm joined here by
Garrett Jones. I'm the director of City of Spokane Parks and Recreation.
And we feel really privileged to be here tonight and share factual information with you about the Together Spokane initiative, which is a park levy and a school bond that will be on the November ballot, which I can't believe it is like right around the corner here. It's amazing how fast time goes. So our intent is to give you an overview this evening, talk to you a little bit about the context of how this came about, share some projects that are specific to this part of our community. And then when we convene, we're going to have a little gathering out here in the foyer where you'll have the opportunity to ask questions or give us any feedback that you might have. So I'll start by talking a little bit of history and context for Spokane Public Schools. So as many of you know, we're one of the largest school districts in the state of Washington. So we serve about 30,000 kids on a daily basis. And we do that inside of 58 schools, which encompass over 5 million square feet of space on 600 acres. So we have a large operation. And the average age of our school buildings is about 40 years old. And so we've been really successful over the years to stretch the useful life of our buildings. But across those 58 schools, the average age is about 40 years. And in the early 2000s, a group came together to talk about how do we maintain and keep 58 school buildings in good working order? How do you go about doing that? And I'm from a small town. And in the small town that I grew up in, we just had a handful of schools. And in that community, about every 30 to 35, 40 years, they'd run a bond, they'd fix up those few schools, and then they'd be good for the next 30 to 45 years. Well, in a district our size, we cannot wait 40 years and run a bond and put 58 schools on the ballot, right? The cost would be untenable, and the ability of the local construction industry to build 58 buildings it's just not realistic. So in the early 2000s, a group came together and said, we better take this just one small bite at a time. So the plan was put into place where about every 6 years, Spokane Public Schools would run a bond, pick a couple handful of schools to replace or modernize, and then every year in almost every building, do some type of care and feeding to stretch the useful life. And that's been a pretty successful plan for us over the last 25 years. We've been able to fix up a number of our schools. We've also been able to stretch the life of our buildings. So we replaced Sacagawea in our last bond. Sacagawea was over 60 years old when we replaced it. We got Glover past 60 years old. So some really good success of stretching the useful life. In 2018, the city came to us, Mayor Condon at the time, and said, we would love to work together. Let's do a partnership. And that partnership resulted in a school bond and a library bond. And we exchanged property as part of that partnership. So they gave us land to build Peppersack Middle School, just up the road here. They gave us land to build Yasahura down on Foothills. And we exchanged land, and the city used some of the land that we owned to build a library on Sprague. And we actually built a library inside of one of our middle schools up in Hilliard. Really great way to share resources and share space. And in the summer of 23, Garrett came to us and said, I know you guys are on cycle to run another bond coming up. We would love to partner on the city side and do something like we did in 2018 because we want to run a parks levy. What you're going to see tonight is the fruition of 2 years of work studying what could a partnership look like. And when we set out to do this, we kind of figured it would be about the same scale as what we did in 2018. But the projects kept growing and growing, and the partnerships kept expanding, and the private dollars kept coming and coming. And what you're going to hear about tonight is about an initiative that has over 200 projects. Every school is touched, every park is touched, every neighborhood in Spokane will get some type of investment in addition to some major featured projects that address some of the things that the city heard in their surveying for their park levy and things that we heard as we did listening around our bond packages. So now Garrett's going to talk about what were some of the things that we really tried to focus on as we did this study.
Yeah, and so here were there are 4 really guiding principles, and give you a little bit of context with Parks and Recreation. We manage about 4,000 acres, over 100 properties system-wide. And traditionally in the city of Spokane, we have gone to the public to ask for bonds, whether that was the Dwight Merkel Sports Complex, the 6 aquatic centers that we have, and then also just the most recent one in 2014 with the renovation of Riverfront Park. In 2020, we went out about every 10 years, we asked the public, and we update a master plan. Really, what's that vision? What does that next 20 years look like for Parks and Recreation? And we heard loud and clear that the public loves their parks, but they also want a higher level of service. They want better maintained parks. They want assets and amenities replaced. And so this is actually the first time the City of Spokane Parks and Recreation has gone out for a levy. And so a bond, traditionally, that is like your capital investments, but you don't have the O&M, the operations and maintenance dollars to go with that. And so this levy then gives us that ability to not only replace, add, but then also take care of. And so we've kind of really flipped the script, and that's what the public told us, and now we're responding to that. And a part of this is really promoting a healthy, active, vibrant community. When we work together, we have this mission, around mission alignment, that we want our facilities, these are public facilities, these are public assets, and we want them activated 365 days out of the year. We want kids off of screens. We want adults and seniors off of screens. We want them engaging with one another. And we know when we have positive activation in our neighborhoods, in our neighborhood parks, in our schools, our neighborhood schools, then that is a healthier neighborhood that deters that negative activity that we sometimes see in our neighborhood parks. And so we want the community active together. The other one is really, again, responding to the stakeholder input. First off, they said, can government just please work together? Can government agencies come together, find efficiencies, find projects that see that ultimate benefit that we've been asking for, and can you please just work together? Also, again, the stakeholder input, all of the thought exchanges and public input from our master plan and the school district is really what you're going to see in these 200 projects. And then also, again, that collaboration, that smart government piece, you'll see around lack of duplicating infrastructure, efficiencies around maintenance and operations. And again, those are now efficiencies that we can then stretch that dollar to have more benefit, more improvements in our neighborhoods. And then also make that Spokane a city of choice. We want people to grow up here, work here, live here, retire here. And those are those pieces, and that's about the vibrant community that we're trying to create with this initiative.
So this is an example of the power of partnership. So the map you see on the left, that is the original park levy that the Parks Department planned. So all those green teardrops on the map on the left, those are all the projects the park said, we're going to do a levy, and those are the projects. The blue dots, those are the projects that the school district had planned in our bond that failed in 2024. So for those of you that don't know, a school bond takes 60% to pass. Most of the decisions in our republic take 50%. They built T-Mobile Park in Seattle with a 50% vote, but to build an elementary school, you need 60%. You need a supermajority. And so we got a little under 57% in 2024, and those blue teardrops are the projects that were on that ballot. By working together, by sharing land, by sharing resources, by figuring out how to merge programming, by bringing in private dollars, we were able to add 30 additional projects, which are those yellow teardrops you see. The power of partnerships also came in the costs. So those 2 ballot initiatives by themselves was going to be 31 cents per thousand. By working together, by partnering, we added 30 projects, and the cost actually went down to 29 cents per thousand. One of the things, and Garrett and I have been lots of places since February talking about this. We've been to every civic group, every community space you can almost imagine. One of the things we say to every group, because we want it to be crystal clear, this is a tax increase. This will make your taxes go up. We want people to be crystal clear about that. Your taxes will go up 29 cents per thousand. What we're asking every member of the community to do is to look through these projects, and we're excited to explain them to you today. Is there something in those projects that is worth your investment? And that's the question that the community has to ask themselves is the investment, is the increase worth the return that we are going to receive as a community and as each individual is going to get. It's one of the reasons why we worked really hard to find as many different projects as possible, because we want every member of the community to look through these projects and say, is there something in here that saves me money? Is there something in here where maybe I don't have to drive my kid from Indian Trail out to Plants Ferry for soccer practice? Or maybe because we have more spaces, it reduces a program cost. Or I talked to somebody today who's paying $2,000 a month in childcare, and now they're going to be able to access free preschool in our elementary schools. There's something here that saves me money, and or is there something in these projects that people say, hey, this is worth my less than $8 a month, which is what the average homeowner would pay as an increase? Is there something because you love aquatics, or you love trails, or you care about your neighborhood park's restroom and playground set, or you're excited about the expansion of the Mac Theater, or you love pickleball and you want more spaces to do that, or to play tennis and you want to know more about the indoor tennis center? Does it save me money, and or is there something in here that's worth my less than $8 a month? Our hope is everybody gets the facts, because we want everybody operating off of the facts, and then each person makes that decision and can decide whether or not these partnerships and this partnership is the type of value that they're willing to invest in. So what Garrett and I are going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about projects specifically in the south part of the city. We would love to spend 2.5 hours with you and talk about all projects, but I'm guessing you got other things going tonight, so we'll really just focus on the south. But you can also go to a website, togetherspokane.org, and you can look through over 200 projects. You can read details about them, where they're going to be located, and there's also a place for you to provide input. So the first project we want to share with you is a concept that has been a long time coming in Spokane, and that is a new trades high school. This will be a full day, 9th through 12th grade high school, and it'll be located on Spokane Community College's campus. We have more kids than ever that they want to do something that is hands-on, that is vocationally based sooner in their academic journey. There's lots of kids that absolutely love Ferris and they want to be here for a 6-period day, and there are so many things they can be involved in our comprehensive high schools. But we have a growing number of kids who say, well, I really am passionate about a vocation. I'm really passionate about working with my hands and being in the trades, and I really want to focus my academic journey around that. So this trades high school will be full day, 9th through 12th grade. And 9th and 10th grade, they'll work with SPS teachers. In 11th and 12th grade, they will go into a running start model in one of the 2-year technical programs at the community college. When they graduate, they're going to walk across the stage and we're going to hand them a high school diploma, and they will also get their 2-year technical degree debt-free, ready to enter the workforce. An amazing value for kids. And if you talk to our business and industry partners, they are having critical shortage in the trades professions as the baby boomers are retiring. We need welders. We need people that can do HVAC. We need people that can do sheetrock. We need people that can get into these 2-year technical degrees quicker, sooner, and debt-free so they can enter the workforce. So we're really excited about this project.
The next project, again, this was a high response in our master plan around just public safety in our public spaces. And it's really a multi-pronged approach. And I use an example around a small little pocket park in west central Spokane called Dutch Jake's Park. A number of years ago, the community came to us and said, can you just please mow down the park, take everything away, fence it up, we're done. There's too much negative activity happening here. It was one of the highest calls for service for the police department in the entire city of Spokane. And we said, well, how about we look at it another way, is saying, let's get your community and neighborhood engaged about really kind of taking back that park and strengthening that identity of the neighborhood. And then that next phase is really, what if we were able to invest in that park, what do the kids and families actually want to play on? What do they want to enjoy? How do they want to interact with the park? And then the second piece, if you're able to invest in that facility, that creates that positive activation. And then working with our partners, with the police department and others, and our park rangers, then what do those proactive patrols look like? And so all about that is, again, it is about investing in every single park. It's about that positive activation, but then also it's our park ranger program. In the city of Spokane, we have a park ranger program that are special commissioned officers. We have 4 right now in the city. They mainly are headquartered out of Riverfront Park and then kind of respond as needed, reacting to certain negative activities in parks across our system. A part of this proposal, partnering with the school district, would be up to 4 times as many park rangers across our entire city to have those proactive patrols. So that would be up to 4 park rangers in the Northeast, Northwest, downtown, and South Hill. So it's being able to create those relationships with the neighbors, creating those relationships with the people using the park, and then having that extra eyes and the tools and the ability to enforce as needed to have that proactive patrol around park security and safety.
And these park rangers, we will partner with the school district, and the Parks Department will work together, and they will assist in school properties. Our school properties and our parks properties are much more integrated than sometimes people even realize. Like, I'm not even sure Principal Odell here at Ferris knows that the softball field that is out here on the northeast side of the campus actually is park property and doesn't belong to the school district. He's shaking his head, so he knows everything about Ferris. But not a lot of people know that because they're just very integrated, right? And so it doesn't make sense for us to be doing things in silos. We shouldn't work in silos when we build things, and we shouldn't work in silos anymore when we're maintaining and operating spaces. We shouldn't work in silos when we're providing programming. There isn't enough resources to go around. People are already feeling a significant burden in their finances and their taxes. The future is we got to work together. We got to share resources. We got to share space. We got to share programming so that we can meet the needs of the community. Next project that we want to talk about is just really close by here is Adams Elementary. So Adams is one of our oldest schools. Prior to the 2024 bond, the school district had a work group of parents, community members, facility experts. We came together and we talked about what are all the needs across our 58 schools and what should we put on the next bond. They came up with $400 million worth of projects, and we gladly and happily presented that to the school board, and our school board said, that feels like a lot. Even though our last bond was over $500 million, things have changed, assessed value has gone up, $400 million feels like a lot. So we're gonna whittle that down, and we're gonna prioritize, and we're gonna do a $200 million bond. And so we removed quite a few projects. There were lots of sad faces and lots of disappointed children, teachers, parents, principals, because they wanted to see their facility modernized. But we moved that list down to $200 million. Adams was one of the ones that was prioritized in that list, along with Madison Elementary. There are 2 oldest elementaries that we have left in the district. The new Madison Elementary is a concept that we really took from the feedback from our last bond. And what we heard in our last bond is, we're not sure you should build schools anymore, which was kind of interesting feedback to hear. And then we dug a little deeper, and what we learned from that feedback was the community wants community centers that do lots of different things that don't just serve children. Not that we don't believe in that, but we want our buildings to do lots of different things. So the new Adams Elementary will also be the south location for a Boys and Girls Club. Lots of growth in this part of the community, lots of apartment complexes. There are not a lot of places for kids to go. If you go to Target on the weekend, you will find an ad hoc youth center with lots of teenagers running around Target. So I've witnessed it myself this weekend. It's quite astonishing. And I don't think Target appreciates that. And I think we can provide some better spaces for kids to go. And so Adams will be an elementary school plus a Boys and Girls Club. On the north side of the city, the new Adams Elementary will be the north location for Boys and Girls Club, and it'll also have a 5-court field house that is in part being funded by Boys and Girls Club, Hoop Fest, and the Pacific Northwest Qualifier, which is a large volleyball tournament.
The next project, again, we heard a lot of feedback around outdoor field athletics, and we've seen historic demand in our it's all right. All right, that's all right. We always got to take. You always want the clicker.
I'm usually really good with the clicker.
But we've seen.
I don't let Garrett touch the clicker, so now I'm going to get along.
You're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
We've seen historic demand of field space, and unfortunately, we see that demand early in the spring and late in the fall. And our 2 biggest disadvantages that we see in those seasons is weather. You don't know what you're going to get, and light. Unfortunately, now it's getting dark fairly early. And so we're seeing a ton of demand. In a community this size, we have 2 all-weather lit fields in our system, and that's 2 at the Dwight Merkel Sports Complex. So a part of this partnership would be adding up to 15 all-weather fields in each of the high school feeder patterns in the community, would either be a school location and or a park location in those feeder patterns. And that would be an all-weather rectangular field that would be lit. So that's football, lacrosse, soccer. And then also you would have an all-weather lit in-field baseball and softball field. We're seeing, again, historic demand of youth baseball and softball, and then also seniors. Our senior softball league is exploding, and we just do not have space for everyone to recreate. We're lacking infrastructure. Right now, if you go up to Dwight Merkel Sports Complex, you can see up to 8 teams practicing on one field, because that's all we have in our system. So this be able to expand the use and the longevity of this use, so we're able to then activate these spaces 365 days out of the year so they have a place to practice and play, and then also take some of that demand of this should be the destination location for tournaments and regional play, whether it's regionals for SPS or state, and then tournaments, because that is a barrier that's expensive for families. When if a kid wants to be a part of a youth athletic club or a part of a program, a part of that responsibility is, well, now we have a tournament we need to go to Wenatchee, Tri-Cities. There's no reason that Spokane cannot be that destination. And right now we're really lacking that infrastructure and behind a lot of cities in this area.
So we've had lots of conversations about more courts and more fields. And we oftentimes hear people say, why would you need all these more courts and fields? Something we believe really passionately as a school district is we have seen the wellness of kids dramatically decline since 2008. Suicide attempts, anorexia, bulimia, anxiety, depression, self-harm, hospitalization, even the percentage of kids getting their driver's license, you name it, if you look at the metric, since 2008, it has declined significantly for kids. Well, what happened in 2008? The iPhone came out. Most researchers now have a hard time pointing to any other significant socio-cultural factor that would have this much of an impact on kids other than the unimaginable amount of time they're spending on devices. Just the sleep deprivation alone should have us terrified, let alone what they're consuming on a daily basis. It's not good for kids. So what do? Well, we're not going to be able to go round up all the phones. They're here to stay. Good luck if you try to get a phone out of one of their hands, right? Some of them bite. Little ones bite. But we can do practical things as a community. So a practical thing that our school board did was say, no more phones in classrooms. We're not doing that anymore. So we implemented that last year. It's gone extremely well. The other thing we said is practically, every kid every day should do something after school. Let's shrink the amount of unstructured time that they have that is getting spent on screens. Let's try to shrink that as much as we can. So instead of 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, which the research is showing that's how much time some kids are spending, maybe we shrink that down to an hour or two because they're going to school, and then after school they're in a club, they're in a performing art, they're in an athletic experience. The good news is kids are responding and families are responding in a way that we never thought was possible. 150 athletes turned out to play volleyball here at Ferris. That's amazing. We have over 600 kids playing middle school tackle football. Our clubs are exploding. At Ferris, there's a fly fishing club. And how many kids are in the fly fishing club?
The fishing club is like 40, 50 kids. Yeah.
There's a board game club. Ferris has a cheese club. I always ask Principal Odell, I sure hope it's not wine, like cheese and wine, just cheese, right? Kids want to be active and want to be involved. We should be celebrating that, and we should be pushing the pedal even further on that. But we're out of space. We're having to turn, last year we turned away kids who wanted to play middle school baseball because there were no fields. We were out, okay? We have a youth basketball league. We went from 900 kids playing to 4,000 through a partnership with Hoop Fest and opening up our gyms. Amazing partnership. But a lot of those teams only get one practice a week because we're just literally, there is not enough space. So we want to have the space to meet demand. And on the park side, they're also concurrently seeing explosion in adult participation.
Yeah, so I think these kids are actually putting some peer pressure on the adults as well when they're saying, hey, I can't have my phone during school, so you can't have your phone during dinner time or after, the evening when it should be family time. Adult volleyball, historically, we've always had a cap, 120 teams citywide. Never really had a hard time filling that and having that space. This year, we had 120 teams that signed up very quickly, filled up. 131 teams on a waiting list, more than double of the adults on a waiting list because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to accommodate that. It's working. We're telling these people to get out and engage with one another. But now, just like our waiting list, we're scrambling to find space. But these are now teams. When you think of 10 players per team, so over 1,000 adults that want to be a part of a league, that we're just saying right now, hold on, we're trying to find space. We're just out of space. But we love the demand that we're seeing. It's a good problem to have.
Our strategy's working. It should give us a lot of hope because time on screens is the greatest existential threat to our community and our country, whether it's on a physical level, an economic level, a national security level, a social level, a political discourse level, you name it. Research is showing that screens are a massive antecedent to that. And if you don't believe us, because not always everybody believes everything we say, it's hard to imagine, go read The Anxious Generation, and there's a documentary called To Live or Die. And it is about the impact screens are having on kids, and it's also about the impact that's having on us as a community and our ability to engage and collaborate and work together.
Through our master plan process, the top 2 priorities that the citizens came said, you got to do something with park restrooms. Either they're locked, they're trashed, we don't have access to them, we don't feel safe when we're accessing the restrooms when they are open. And the other one was around playgrounds. That picture on the right, that is something that I never want to see again, because right now our staff is doing a great job but just don't have the resources. So a part of this, and again, this is something completely different with this levy, every single park, every single neighborhood, every single restroom will either get renovated or replaced. And then how do we come up with a successful restroom? How is it designed? What type of factors, crime prevention through environmental design principles, do you put towards a restroom design? How is it lit? How welcoming it is? What kind of view corridors do you have? Where is the actual restroom placed within the park? Is it back in a far corner, or is it where there is positive activation happening? Is it next to a playground, next to a street? Can you easily accessibly get to the restroom via a sidewalk and that it's lit? The other piece is, how is it maintained? This now gives us the ability to clean our restrooms more, to combat the vandalism, whether a toilet gets demolished or a sink gets demolished, we're able then to respond so that restroom is not out of service. The other piece then is to around our park rangers. Now we're able to actually patrol and then lock up the restrooms late at night. And then also we're looking at technology around automatic locks, monitoring sensors, cameras to be able to monitor those restrooms during the night and then being able to open them up during the day. The other big piece is a lot of the old infrastructure, whether it's a collapsed sewer line or the water is connected to our irrigation. So as soon as we shut off our irrigation, then that restroom is not accessible because we don't have water. It is a mission for us. If we have a program, a scheduled program that's going into a park, then we should have essential infrastructure like a restroom available. Because I know as parents, and I've been there, is as soon as you get to a park, then that's when your little ones have to go. You go to the restroom and it's closed or locked. Now what? Panic happens. Everybody gets stressed out. That's something that we have to eliminate. And then also around our playgrounds. The average life of a playground is 15 years. We have playgrounds in our system from the 1970s. Again, this is a system-wide approach that each playground gets renovated or replaced, and then actually going into the schools and working with kids in the classroom to tell us how they want their neighborhood park and playground to be designed. We've done a couple pilots around Liberty Park. If you've gone to Liberty Park with that new playground structure, what you see in that park is what the kids told us they wanted to see. They wanted to see a Jack and the Beanstalk, big stock thing, and so you'll see those type of features. They wanted to see a zip line. We were able to implement a zip line. And so every park, restrooms gets renovated or replaced, and also the playground gets renovated and replaced every single neighborhood park.
So we've tried to go and talk to as many people that would meet with us and talk with them about what do you have, what are your assets, what are your goals. One of the things we've consistently heard is interest in indoor aquatics. For a community with our geographic profile and our size, it's rare to not have an indoor aquatic center. Well, that sounds a great idea. Who wouldn't want that until you find out how much it costs, which is north of $60 million to build a new aquatic center. That's not realistic. So we started asking around, and we found out that the Spokane Community College had an indoor aquatic center that they shut down and mothballed. So there's a picture of it you can see there. That's what it currently looks like. It's just sitting there empty. And we went to them and said, hey, would you let us use that for free if we pay to modernize it, which needs some, modest updates, just some little HVAC work and some restrooms, IDEA stuff. If we modernize it, can we use it for free, and then the Parks Department will operate it? And they said, yeah, absolutely, you go for it. We're not using it. We'll sign a long-term lease. You can use it for free. And now the community can have an indoor aquatic center for high school swim team, for lifeguard training, for swim lessons. One of our plans is for most of our elementary kids to have an in-the-school day swim lesson experience when they're second graders. No family in our community should ever have to feel the pain of losing a child to drowning. And we have a lot of unstructured swim. We have some amazing aquatic centers that have lifeguards during the summer, but there's a lot of unsupervised swim that happens in Spokane County. Every kid deserves access to swim lessons. Currently, as a parent, if you try to sign your kid up for swim lessons with the Parks Department in the summertime, you have to sit by your computer and hit the refresh button to try to get in. It's very difficult. So we know that there's high demand. By working together and partnering, we can open up an indoor aquatic center for our community. Instead of paying north of $60 million, we're going to be able to do that for less than $5 million.
Another big piece of this, again, when we look at efficiencies, is around shared maintenance. Similar to the park ranger model of working with school grounds and also neighborhood parks, there's many areas within the city, rather than the school district driving to one location to mow the grass, to blow the leaves, to pick up the trash, and then literally right next door, we have the Parks Department that is going and doing the same exact activity. A great example is Shadle Park. A lot don't know that the majority of that is City of Spokane land. And then there's this imaginary line where school district just maintains this imaginary line, and we do it on the other side. So when we look at, similar to park rangers, when we look at a district model of splitting up resources, so we have one team, you maintain this location, and then another team maintains this location, and sharing those resources. And also by sharing resources, not only is it more efficient, but then also saves time, so then we can spend more time on that higher level of service and curb appeal that the community deserves.
So we're going to talk really briefly about just a couple additional projects. I mentioned Adams Elementary. We'll also be doing some updates to Gary Middle School. Chase Middle School is an elementary school where it doesn't need a modernization, but it needs new carpet and paint. If you've been into Chase recently, we've had some carpet in there since the mid-90s when it opened, and it's time. So some modest updates to Chase. As well as we'll be modernizing one section of North Central High School. We mentioned about all of our 58 schools getting support as needed to extend their useful life. We've talked about wanting to make sure our school playfields and parks are really connected. Community access to auditoriums. We have these beautiful auditoriums, and we have not let anybody go near them. And the reason why is because we don't want you to break anything. And it also requires someone to sit up there and run the sound and the lights and all that. Well, there's technology that for a very modest cost we can implement so that someone can go to the wall and push music performance or town hall or drama performance, and the lights and sound auto configure, and now you don't need to then have that staff utilization. We want the local piano teacher to be able to rent this beautiful space and have their piano recital for their kids and their families. It should be easier and more accessible. That's really all about that feedback that we heard, that our schools should be community centers that are schools, but also do lots of other things. One of the really interesting phone calls that we got was in December. The United States Tennis Association called us and they said, hey, we heard that you're doing this initiative around recreation and getting people off of screens, and we would love to be a part of it. We want to come to your community. We want to look at your existing outdoor tennis courts. We'd like to select one of them, and then we will fund an indoor tennis center over the top of them. And we said, well, that sounds too good to be true, but you're welcome to come to Spokane in December if you want. They came to our community, and then they identified Shadle Park as their preferred location because of its centralized access points. And the United States Tennis Center is going to be funding an indoor tennis center in that space. It'll be the first public indoor tennis center in the region, not the city or the county, the region. If you want to play tennis indoors during poor weather, you need a membership that you have to go and access one of those spaces. So this will be an indoor tennis center that the USTA will help operate for us, from little kids all the way to seniors and everything in between. The other one I want to mention really quickly, we're going to pick up the pace here, is we went and talked to the Museum of Art and Culture. If you haven't been there, it's a beautiful facility in Brown's Addition. They have 13,000 square feet of exhibit space. That exhibit space is predominantly devoted to traveling shows like the Samurai and the Minecraft, and they are also our local historical society. They have 44,000 square feet of space. It is completely full, and all of our local art and history is in storage. And we don't have an opportunity to see it because they don't have space to display it. So we went and met with them and said, what are you working on? What are your needs? And they shared this challenge with us. And their executive director was previously in Colorado, where they had a partnership with their police department, where they shared a storage facility, which allowed the museum to open up more space for exhibits. We have a storage need. The city has a storage need. We're going to be consolidating some property and selling some land. And so part of this initiative would be a joint storage facility for the school district, the Parks Department, and the Museum of Art and Culture, which would allow them to open up 20,000 square feet of their current facility to be exhibit space for our local art and history, for our kids to be able to see, for our community, for tourism, everything from early indigenous culture history to pioneer history to urbanization, an amazing collection that sits on a shelf that will be opened up for all of Spokane to see.
All right, other additional projects for Parks and Recreation. We have identified 3 major full renovations of parks within the community, and that was really feedback from the public. And so that is Minnehaha in Northeast, Harmon Park in Northeast, and then Grant Park in the Perry District adjacent to the Grant Elementary School. Also, again, with the feedback for the public, we have a goal in Parks and Recreation that every citizen here in this community has a 10-minute walk to a park or an open space. And we do pretty well. It's really the perimeter of the community where we lack. And so this would be developing 3 new parks within the community. One would be in the northwest section of town and North Indian Trail, which is called Meadow Glen Park, one of the highest single-family residential growth that we've seen in our community, and there's a park desert there. So this would be a new community park in Meadow Glen, and also in the northeast Spokane in the Shiloh Hills neighborhood. A lot of development over the 80s and 90s, and nobody really thought about community infrastructure. And so we'd be acquiring and developing a new community park there in the northeast. And then Latah-Hangman around Eagle Ridge, a huge demand and growth in want for public infrastructure. And so this would be developing a new community park and then also master planning an adjacent new elementary school in that location as well. Also, other ones is, again, a lot of natural land within our area around trailheads. So this is parking lot improvements, lighting improvements, wayfinding improvements. A lot of times we have families come to us saying, we would love to access your trails more as a family, but we don't know if we're venturing into a 1-mile hike, a 5-mile hike. Will I ever come out? And so we want to be able to provide that added resource. Also, again, this goal to get kids outside. Rather than the traditional maybe 2 field trips per year, we want to come to a model where we have 2 field trips per month. And this summer, you maybe saw a lot of kids at Manitou Park, and this was really a pilot to get kids outside. And we want to activate outdoor learning centers across our entire community. Also, again, system-wide upgrades, whether it's lighting, picnic shelters, picnic tables, sidewalks, parking lots. That is system-wide improvements that you would see in every neighborhood park. And then also all of our sport complexes that we have sport courts on. Manitou is a great example. I can't tell you the last time that's actually been usable. There is many existing sport courts, whether that's pickleball or that's a multi-use between tennis and pickleball, whether that's basketball. Each one of those gets renovated across the entire system. And then also, we're still pulling hoses in manually irrigating a number of our parks. Not only is it not efficient for staffing and water conservation, but also these are areas during the day that the community cannot use. And so this would be updating all those irrigation systems that we have in our system that are either manual or that are about 30 or 40 years old that we need to do upgrades to make as efficient as possible. And then again, we own a lot of natural land within our community. Right now, we have no resources to manage our natural land. And we know natural land does take management, whether that's around wildfire risk mitigation. This was a rough summer for us in Parks and Recreation. There was about a month that every day there was a fire in one of our parks and natural lands. And there's things that we can do. And we've had great success of partnering with the Spokane Fire Department and looking at fuel reduction exercises across our system, but now this maintains that into the future.
So we want to share a little bit. One of the partners we went to, we are very blessed in Spokane to have some amazing community organizations. One of them that serves youth is the Spokane Youth Sports Association. I think almost all of us have had some touch point. Those of us that have had kids, they provide an unimaginable variety of programming. We have literally thousands and thousands of kids that participate in their offerings. And we went to them and we asked them, what are you working on? What are your needs? And we heard from them, no surprise, they need space for their programming. And they shared with us that, which is well known and has been well known for quite some time, that they had been planning to build a sports complex on this piece of land just to the east of us off of Glen Rose. And there's been lots of different ideas and some differing of opinions on whether or not that was the right place for that sports complex. And we engaged in a conversation with them about, rather than doing things by ourselves, are you interested in working together? And they were extremely excited to learn more and to talk about what that could look like. We're really fortunate we have their executive director here today that's going to share some perspective on this partnership. And what we're here to announce tonight is if the bond passes and Together Spokane moves forward, that Spokane Youth Sports is going to abandon their Glen Rose project, invest in our all-weather field system here at Ferris High School, as well as other parts of our community. And that space will not be used for that purpose. We're sharing spaces, we're sharing infrastructure, we're making the value and the dollar go farther for the community. So at this time, we'd like to invite Ben up to share a few words about that partnership. So join me in welcoming Ben.
Good evening. Adam stole my thunder a little bit there. I prepared some notes. This collaboration is important to the community, to SYSA, and so I wanted to write a few things down. I'm honored, first of all, to speak on behalf of the nearly 14,000 young people we serve annually through our programs. And I'm here tonight to talk about why the decision to collaborate with Parks and SPS was so easy for SYSA. It's simple. We have been providing youth sports for nearly 60 years in this community, changing lives through the transformative power of sport. So any opportunity to create better access, equity, and more affordable opportunities for young people is what we are about. To that end, SYSA plans to vote yes twice for the Together Spokane initiative and link arms like we have for so long with these longstanding partners to provide those kinds of opportunities for our young people. It's not rocket science, but it's really more important. And you've heard some of the stats tonight, but active youth do better in life. They're less likely to be obese. Their test scores are higher. They're 15% more likely to go to college. They have lower levels of depression and higher self-esteem. Studies from the Aspen Institute show that they have an almost 10% higher earning potential and that they're more productive in the workplace as adults. I could go on and on. Active kids are healthier physically, mentally, and emotionally. Active kids become active adults and build better communities. So again, simply put, we're talking about a plan here, I think, that changes lives. And without sounding hyperbolic, I think we might save some with an initiative like this. If this initiative passes, that's why I say we'll move away from its project plans at the Glen Rose property that we've been trying to develop for nearly 15 years to answer this call and invest our resources in, I think, the whole infrastructure of a plan like this, but certainly what they're dreaming about here at Ferris. The South Hill desperately needs this space. I have kids. I remember what it was like to find a practice space, coaching my young people. I know what it feels like to drive down Regal or try to find a parking place at the South Complex on a Saturday. It's madness. And this is really our reality everywhere. So we love this plan. It's collaborative, it's innovative, it serves more kids, and it gets us where we need to be faster. Look, I said this a couple months ago, a rising tide lifts all boats. We are one of those boats. Your kids are in the boats. If COVID taught us anything, and we know these trends started well before that, it's that kids need to be active. We all do. You know this, we know this, your kids know this. And this is why I think it's not surprising to see kids coming back to community-based sports and other sports options and activities in droves. We have a responsibility now to match that interest. We can't afford new taxes. I don't know that we can afford to avoid an opportunity like this or to wait. The impact and potential of this rising tide is just too large to ignore, and so we're all in and excited to announce that here tonight. I hope you are too.
Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate sharing.
No matters.
Go Mariners. Here, I'll take it.
Appreciate you sharing that perspective. So as Ben mentioned, our partnership with SYSA, they've have shared their intent to contribute, approximately $5 million to this initiative, which will support our all-weather field system and additional courts. How did that impact specifically Ferris? As part of our original plan, the main football field here at Ferris would have an all-weather lit surface with lights. When we say lights, things have changed with lights a lot in the last 10 or 15 years. When we used to talk about field lighting, historically that has been a big concern for neighborhoods, and understandably so. What has changed in the last 10 years is the technology around light pollution has improved dramatically. In the new stadium downtown, if you stand in the southeast corner, you could get a sunburn from the lights, but if you go 15 feet into Joe Albee Way, you're practically standing in the dark. And so these are practice lights. These are not lights for Friday night football at Ferris. These are to extend the opportunity for us to do sub-varsity sports and extend practice times and also provide youth and adult rec opportunities. So the main field would have an all-weather field with lights, and then behind the school here, there's a large patch of grass just out here behind us, and that would all be developed into an all-weather turf surface with lights. That provides a great opportunity, again, for field space. It also solves an age-old challenge here at Ferris that we built a school on a swamp, which in hindsight, maybe not the best idea. And so you can imagine what it's like to maintain fields that are built on a swamp with basalt rock underneath because they don't drain very well. And so we've had all sorts of challenges over the years. So it not only does it solve a usage issue, it also saves a maintenance and operations issue because it's a lot to maintain. If any of you have driven down Regal anytime during the spring, sometimes that's a baseball field and sometimes it's a lake. Just kind of depends on when you drive by because, again, some of that same challenge. So there's some cost savings in the maintenance and operations to all-weather fields as well. So with that, we really appreciate your time and your attention to us sharing. Again, you can go to togetherspokane.org. You can look through all these projects and give feedback. What we're going to do now is we're going to transition from this portion to moving out into the hallway there. We're going to have content experts from both the city and the school district that are going to be available to talk with you, answer any questions you might have, and hopefully take any feedback you can offer us at this junction. And then the last thing we would say is we need to vote. Everybody should vote. We need everybody to vote, so please remind your neighbors, remind your friends, remind your families. We want everybody to take part in this process. We want them to have the facts, and then everybody will make the decision that they think is best for them. So remember to vote. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.